Newman's theory, Spiral of Silence, states that media shapes the public opinion, and the public opinion only supports the majority's viewpoint. This means that the minority opinion fears isolation if they voice their views, if they go against the grain. This fear of isolation leads the minority group into a spiral of silence. The majority of the spiral of silence research that we observed in our communication theory class primarily focused on media, politics, and the spiral of silence. Our research was a focus of a sociological perspective. It was on a topic that most people find uncomfortable. If you happen to stumble upon the topic, you feel a bit itchy. You want to get out of the conversation fairly quickly. The topic we researched was rape. Through our literary review, what we wanted to accomplish was find where previous research had already been conducted, what they found. We also wanted to find the holes in the research and find where we could take our research from here. In our paper, we have 3 main points, and we will cover them in our presentation. It's the media's influence on the public opinion, traditional rape scenarios, and non-traditional rape scenarios.
So media's influence on the public opinion comes through primarily through the presentation of exemplars. Now, an exemplar is an ideal concept, or an ideal example or model of a concept. This can be a story, a testimonial, or some other kind of example that helps to explain a phenomenon. William Gonzenbach and Stephen Perry state that exemplars are often presented in a manner that favors public opinion. So how does rape fit into all of this? There is a social stigma around the idea of speaking about rape, be it hypothetically or in a practical sense. An individual's perception of public opinion affects their willingness to express alternative opinions. So exemplars influence perception of public opinion, and that influences expression. And when this happens, it often creates an environment where rape victims feel shut out. Some examples of exemplars. Shannon O'Hara in 2012 discussed monster imagery, which is where news media sensationalizes and dramatizes rape cases and sexual violence. In this manner, it could be the typecasting of the victim being innocent or the perpetrator as being a monster. News media that portrays the victim and perpetrator in this manner contribute to the crystallization of rape myths. Martha Burt in 1980 defined rape myths as prejudicial, stereotyped, false beliefs of rapists, and rape victims. What are some common rape myths? The 3 that came to mind when we did our research that kept coming up were that only bad girls get raped, she was asking for it, or often women might cry rape when rape did not occur for ulterior motives. And men, through rape myths, are often portrayed as sex-starved, insane, or both. Leanne Kaler and Matthew Easton in 2011 looked at how television plays a role in rape myth acceptance. And they found that individuals watching more dramas are much more accepting of rape myths, as opposed to individuals who watch more crime shows, who are much more accepting, or much less accepting of rape myths. Television has contributed to rape myth acceptance, but so has film. Neil Malamuth and James Check looked at the influence that media has on individuals accepting new ideas that they were not familiar with prior to, or reestablishing them. And they asked, would exposing individuals to films that feature sexual violence perpetrated upon women coming to a positive ending cause individuals to be more accepting of sexual violence against women? And when they exposed a group of men and a group of women separately to films that featured this, they found that men displayed increased acceptance of violence against women, while women displayed a decreased acceptance of violence against women. So all of these examples of exemplars show how this public opinion has this crystallized set of rape myths that people outside of the public opinion, such as rape victims, see. And when they see this, they aren't interested in expressing their alternative opinion, and that pushes them in the spiral of silence.
Currently, as Tyler stated, the public perception and the public opinion is that the topic of rape is better left alone. Don't bring it up. However, there are some things that we'd like to cover. First of all, the varying types of rape. There are different types of rape, and these different types of rape also elicit different reactions from both the victim and the observer. When we say observer, we're classifying that as family or friends of the victim or anyone who's heard the victim's story. Early research only focused on classic rape scenarios. This included a male attacking a woman. However, with more current research, the definition of rape has been reevaluated and redefined. There are currently two distinct focuses. Those include heterosexual and homosexual rape. Amy Grubb and Julie Hauer in 2009 defined 3 categories of rape. These included stranger rape, date rape, and seduction rape. As mentioned before, each category of rape has a different reaction from both the victim and the observer. Grubb and Hauer found that victims of date and seduction rape were at a higher risk of being blamed for the attack. This was because observers thought that the victim acted in a way that would have encouraged the attack because they knew their attacker in some capacity prior to the event. Kleinka and Meyer said that the victims of date rape also received more blame for the attack because they were asking for it, one of the rape myths. However, it should be noted that in case studies, female observers generally attribute less blame to the victims of stranger rape because there's no clear explanation as to why the attack happened. There was no prior knowledge of the victim. It was a strange freak event, you could say. On the other hand, male observers frequently had less empathy for victims of all types of rape. The hypothesis is that this lack of empathy was perhaps because male observers could not see a perceived similarity with the victim. They could not see the attack happening to them. They could not relate to the female victims. There is a negative notion associated with this crime because of the media, through television, video, print, and through verbal communication. It shaped the public opinion that you should not talk about rape. And this leaves the victims with a lack of willingness to voice their opinion because they feel isolated from family, friends, and even from authority figures such as police. Additionally, the public opinion is do not discuss rape. So the victims do not bring it up, they feel like the minority, and it sends them into a spiral of silence.
So because we know that media shapes the public perception, we must wonder what we're missing. We have to consider the non-traditional rape with the traditional being a male raping a female. The elements that we have to consider for non-traditional rape is the biological sex and sexual orientation of the victim and the perpetrator. Because of a lack of media coverage and male rape myths, victims are refraining from coming forward and reporting the crime to the police. Unfortunately, there's an expectation of masculinity within our culture that sends kind of a social spiral of silence for these male victims. However, with current research, 1 in 20 males has been raped, but if we heighten our research, more males might come forward. So the male rape myths that perpetuate this spiral of silence include men cannot be raped, it can only happen in prison, if a man is raped, he must be gay, and a man is always willing to have sex, and a man cannot be overpowered. Jane Walker, John Archer, and Michelle Davies did a survey of 40 male rape victims. Only 5 of these victims came forward and reported the crime to the police. 4 out of 5 of these victims regretted reporting it because the police were unsympathetic, uninterested, and even blamed them for the crime and saying that they acted in a way to elicit the crime. There's no infrastructure for these victims to aid their recovery. Michelle Davies, Jennifer Gilson, and Paul Rogers did a survey of 170 participants. These participants received a scenario of a homosexual male rape. The majority of these participants reported negatively towards this, which supported the hypothesis that the public opinion of homosexual rape is negative. In conclusion, Noel Newman's theory of spiral of silence provides us with a framework to understand why silence occurs. As we have learned, victim blaming causes a spiral of silence, and media heavily influences the public perception, which creates a scenario for victim blaming to take place. After our review of literature, we want to turn our current research into an exploration of non-traditional rape, male rape victims, and the public perception of non-traditional rape. Thank you.